All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 22 of Zed Daily. Today I have Imferno from Catch Me Ridin Derby with us. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So I want to take it back a little bit. When did you find Zed, and when did you buy your first horse?
Oh man. So when I first found it, I was pretty big into Axie. I played Axie a lot. So there was kind of like this chat room where they posted different NFT ideas, and someone put like a little, "Hey, there's your horses." It was around April Fool's Day, so I thought it was an April Fool's joke, and I was like, "What, you can raise horses online? That's crazy." so so I sort of that thought passed, and then the weekend came, and I saw people were actually racing these things on Twitter. And I was like, "What? I want to do that. I'm going to check it out." So I went online, went in Discord. I thought I did some research. I bought like the first three horses that I saw, and they were all terrible. But I had a lot of fun doing it. So after losing my first 50 races or so, I was like, man, I kind of want to win a race. So I dug a little deeper. I was trying to look into odds and stuff, and then I kind of went down the rabbit hole of just trying to figure stuff out. I mean, we didn't really have to know your horses and stuff. Like none of the data was there. I was manually tracking things in Excel, trying to find the good stats and stuff.
So what was like the best racehorse that you bought after you bought those three horses? What was your strategy you went about to buy this horse, and then what horse was it?
Oh yeah, so when I started, breeding wasn't out yet. They were sort of waiting because they had just moved to Polygon. So I had bought a couple of Genesis horses and I started to breed them. They were all bad, so I started to flip them for more than I was able to. So I started flipping horses, trying to build up a little bit. And the first horse that I got was Moonlight Graham, and that was one of the bred horses. When I raced against it, I saw it had some really good stats. So I looked into it and I was like, man, this guy's getting 5-6 odds every time. So I picked that up for 1.25 Ethereum. I think it's like an elite Finny. At the time, everyone was kind of like, oh, Genesis, Genesis, Genesis. And people thought I was crazy for spending 1.25 on an elite Finny. But I started to, rack up a bunch of wins and, it paid itself off. It was a good decision. So that was the first one. The second one, a little bit later, once I was starting to flip horses and build a little bit of cash from Moonlight Graham's winnings, I spent 3 Ethereum on main event. So that was out there. I saw an ad from, I think it was craft trading company, on Twitter, and it said main event, and I said, look at these stats. So I liked that a lot. Picked up that horse, and then pretty soon I was just wrecking class 4 and 5 and just winning a ton of races. I think at the time, like right now, they have probably 15, 16% win percentage. They were at like 20, 25, and just in the big buckets every time, racking it up. It was nice.
So was main event, was that, how'd you go about racing this horse? Was this a synthetic U horse to where you could keep it down in a low class and then race big money, or did you race it up into class 1?
So he main event was just, I mean, it got last more than it got first, but the odds every time were really good. And it was, it could win any distance, it could get 12th any distance, and it just kept going. So I didn't really care if I got 12th or first. I calculated that I made much more from winning the first than from all the last places that I got. It just sort of kept going. You sort of see the same horses all the time.
Okay. So beyond main event, which horse in your stable is your favorite? If you had to pick one.
Oh man, so a little bit after getting main event, saved up some more money, and they actually had a drop because I missed the first drop, and then I joined the next drop, and that's when I picked up Jumbo. So I got Jumbo unraced on the drop, and it was sort of a little bit late. I logged in, and there was a bunch of Z1s left, and I was like, "What? No one wants these Z1s?" So went in, picked up Jumbo, raced her, which I think most people would probably kill me for racing a Z1. I've raced a bunch of them, and it was a good horse. So Jumbo's up there. It's hard to pick a favorite though. It's probably Jumbo. I like Delmundo in the sprinting category. I like Jen Cobbler as my marathon runner because she's I love odds, and I miss the odds, but it was nice seeing those kind of odds, and you kind of know how you stack up, and as they move to class 1, you kind of know who your go-to horses are.
That's awesome. So did
Yeah.
you think like, hey, I have main event, now I want a general overall good horse, and then now I have Jumbo, I want a sprinter, so you went and got Ray Del Mundo. Did you want a horse that could cover all bases, or did you want a horse for like each type? You wanted a sprinter horse, a mid horse, and a marathon horse? What was your game plan for acquiring these guys?
Yeah, well, to be honest, when I first started, it was just about trying to accumulate as much profit as possible racing, right? So, I mean, I didn't care if they were, Genesis Z1s or, it could be a pacer for all I care. If they're winning races and making money, like I want that horse. So it was sort of building up the winners. And as I raced a bunch of times, like I probably have the most races in Zed out of everyone. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm on there all the time, but I know all the horses on the platform. So you see the same one. So if one goes on sale, you know how that one stacks up against everyone else, right? So I sort of have a list of those that I want. It didn't really matter if it was a sprinter, if it was distance, if I have a lot of horses in the same distance funnel or category or whatever. Like I want those, and sometimes I fill up the race 3 or 4 of my own horses just
Nice.
because you get a chance to win it.
Get it to fill real quick too.
Yeah, and for a while I ran a lot of like I had the horse called Psyduck, and I think it was probably the most hated horse on the platform at the time because it would dominate class 5, but like at the $2 races, and so it would win a bunch of those, but it would get a lot of the new players mad. So I was like, oh, I kind of don't want to do that anymore. So that's when I kind of switched my strategy from going like $2 races to the big buy-ins. And as you go into the big buy-ins, then you see those killer horses.
Okay, that's cool. So how do you go about racing on a day-to-day basis? Are you waking up at a certain time? Do you put in a certain amount of hours? What's your day-to-day look like on Zed Run?
I'd say it's flexible, but I mean, Zed's kind of, it's been life, so you kind of wake up Zed, right? Right before you go to sleep, you Zed.
Yep.
And like before, I played before stamina. So, I mean, I was all day, race all day. And it was funny because I'd look in general chat and be, you're riding Derby sleep between these hours and these hours. That's when we got to go race. I felt bad, but then I didn't feel bad. I mean, it's a game. You're taking money, so that is what it is. So, but now with the new stamina changes, like that was a pretty nice. I mean, I didn't love it because I couldn't race all day, but I liked it because it gave me a little bit more balance. Where I don't have to be here all the time. I sort of. I mean, I still am here all the time, but you know when your horses are tired, and you sort of throw it in the morning and a little bit later. And then before you go to bed, you put in the big buy-ins where the races are harder to fill because then you can sleep and hopefully the race runs.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, you can come in the morning, get your what 9 races in, come back 12 hours later, get your other 9 races in.
Yeah, I'm a total no life Zedder, so
Me too, me too, man.
it's
So,
fun.
how do you go about breeding in your stable? Do you have the blood tool? Do you have like any set in stone theories that you have right now? What's your plan?
Yeah, so I don't use a blood tool. I mean, I've heard really great things about a couple of them. I'm looking to try them out, but I just didn't want to spend money on that. Like I sort of have been experimenting. I have a lot of horses. I have my theories of what's proven successful in the past. One of the big things that I've noticed is the failed super coat theory. So you go for 2 coats of the same color. If it's a failed super coat, it has a good chance to be a pretty decent horse. And even if it is a super coat, like Ray Delmundo is a super coat. So there's some really great horses with that sort of background. So that's one thing that I look at. Another thing I like to do is I've been loading up on Genesis Finney's, Genesis Sabos, because I like to sort of cross bloodlines. So it's expensive to cross, Zabos into Nakamoto, but I mean, I still do it sometimes, but Finney into Zabo or, even Butyrate into Finney, back and forth. Those are sort of the sweet spot where you can kind of get a great horse for not too much. And, if you breed Finneys together, they almost always flame in the Griffin, like a Z10, Z11. So you sort of have a good feeling of going into there and then, figuring out where the success is. So that's 2 of them. And then 3. So I like, mostly legendary horses. Legendary horses seem to be really good bred horses, but also when I'm breeding, I have more success usually, in addition to the legendary horses, if you breed, exclusive into a Genesis, for example, and mix that sort of bloodline. I'm noticing a little bit of a success rate there where you're flaming more, you're winning more, and the horses are pretty decent. So, I mean, those 3 together, it's kind of throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And there's one more thing that I've kind of noticed. I'm not a great, data person, but I've noticed that if you get like a strong base ability where like the curve is kind of like this, where you get a lot of first place, second, third, and you mix it with like the A-shaped horses, where they sort of finish more in the middle, those combinations seem to work better in general than when I breed like 2 of the same really strong base ability horses together. I mean, it's kind of weird how it worked out because you think like these 2 great parents would breed the super horse, but it hasn't worked out. I mean, I'd say it's probably better to breed the strong base ability into the A-shaped horses recently, but that's just what I've noticed. I mean, I don't know what the blood tools say.
Right.
So mostly that's
So
a weird
that
theory.
that which horse have you bred that's like your best one, and which one of those theories did you use to breed that horse?
Oh man, so I have a couple. So there's the first one was Cobbler Shock. That's it was Gin Cobbler into Shock Factor, I think, and they were both super coats. not super. They were both the same color. It was my Z6 Finney into a Z3 Zabo, and also I think Gin Cobbler has this really great base ability, and Shock Factor had like the A shape. So those three, plus I looked at all the offspring of Shock Factor, and they look pretty decent. So kind of just using common sense, like okay, if this horse is having good offspring without that strong base ability, then it could turn out well. So that horse sort of did well. It flamed early on. It got a flame in like a really big buy-in in Class 4. So I kind of knew I had something really good. And now it's in Class 1 winning races. So that's a great one. The second one is Banhammer. So that one, you raced against that one. But that one's also the same thing. I had a Z3 Zabo. I bred it into a Z2 Naka. And they had the same color, same sort of factors. And that horse is also winning in Class 1 as well. It's doing pretty well.
That's cool. So when you go about these theories, if these horses don't turn out to be racehorses, do you have a plan to cut your losses at a certain point, or do you hold on to them for breeding in the future?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I have a ton of just horses that have pretty good blood that I've bred, and I'm just holding on to them. I'd like to sort of flip them if I can, sometimes just to cut losses, but it's good also to have some good blood in your stable, right? So, you sort of, I have, 3 different stables. So one with the males, one with the females, and one for racing. So you kind of know, and it's interesting too, because it's more fun. It takes me a long time to breed because I'm always constantly looking like, okay, this is blood. I want to mix it with that blood. You kind of mix like the different one. Like I have like a Ray Delmundo child mixed with like another child, and you sort of breed them together, and it didn't turn out so well. But you figure you try it enough times and you see how it works. It's also good to sort of realize losses. And I've also been selling some unraced horses too to sort of help me breed other things, just because it's expensive, right? So I mean, breeding all the time and you're just putting money in and not selling any is not good.
Right.
Well, not good in my pocketbook.
Right. Do you ever have a fear that unraced horse that you're gonna sell is gonna be a monster?
All the time. I used to race every single horse I got, like without fail. I had over probably 200 Genesis Griffin races like since I started. But that's when they were a bit cheaper, and I would start it. And if the Genesis horse wasn't bad, I would just flip it. And eventually, the difference between the unraced and the race became so large that I said, well, I'm just going to keep it, right? So now I have a bunch of Genesis, like Buterins and Finneys, that I just breed together every time. And I'm starting to sell those legendaries in the race. And it hurts me because I know that some of those are going to be really good horses. I mean, look at Diamonds, right? So that was unraced when you got it. So there's always that fear in the back of my mind. It's like, thanks, Derby, for like the champion racehorse. And I'm like,
and it's the one that you sell, right? Like you'll keep 99% of them, but that one you sell just happens to be the good one, right?
Exactly. But you know what? If they buy my unraced horse and it's a winner, good for them. It makes me happy. I'll reproduce that same thing every time. Maybe it'll increase the value, and I could race the next one. So. Yeah.
And it's going to raise the value of the parents, right? If it shows that they can breed a good offspring, then that just raises their value as well.
It does. I've noticed that there's some Genesis horses that consistently have good offspring, and those will sell for a premium, right? Or sometimes you can get a really cheap one. You look on Haku or Know Your Horses for like their offspring, and they have some pretty good ones, and they're down below floor. You can scoop that up.
I like that. So I think you first came on my radar. I joined in August, I believe, like right around the start of August. And then I believe it was 1 or 2 weeks later, they had the Digital Derby. And my favorite part about the Digital Derby was this 5 Ethereum 1v1 head-to-head match. Because one, you guys had the marketing, the talking shit, you built it up and all that stuff. And it was kind of like in the middle of the show, and it was a 1v1.
Oh, yeah.
What was the story of how you became to be a part of the Digital Derby, and why'd you pick Jumbo?
Oh, man. So I think it was a while back. I got a message. I think it was Closener, the guy that sort of did the whole show. He's a great guy. So he put that on, messaged me, asked if I was interested, and I was like, oh yes, like let me in. I want to be part of these like 12 stables. That'll be amazing. I'd be honored to do it. So he sort of said, yeah, that's cool. And I was also sort of in the area when they were going to film it. And I think nobody else really wanted to do a bet. So he gave me props. He's like, no one well, he wanted to do 100 Ethereum. And I'm like, well, I don't even have 100 Ethereum to game. Like, so he said, 5, and I was like, it's kind of steep, but okay, let's do it. So, so he sent me down to San Diego where we filmed it. I hung out with him and his friends, who were a great crew of guys, the factory guys. I did talk a lot of smack, but we were kind of all sitting next to each other. Like as someone went and talked a bunch of smack, we were like, oh my God. So that was mostly for show. Like they're actually great guys. We hung out and stuff. But so that's how we kind of started. And as soon as I sort of knew the stable that I was going to race, like I went through, I looked at the stable. I asked a couple of good friends, like, hey, what do you think about their stable? What do you think? And they sort of pointed out a couple horses, and I think we all sort of came to the conclusion that they were going to race this one called Swagger, which was, I think it's a Z2, I think it's a Genesis. And so I was thinking, like, I can run a U-shaped horse, but that's going to give me a coin flip, right? Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to be racing, this horse, which had a really good Griffey odds, but sort of ran free races up until then, I said I need Jumbo, because I know Jumbo can kind of like go from 12, from 1,000 to 2,400 and still have a chance to win it, right? So I mean, it's kind of an easy, like, now that you think about it, it's easy to pick a Z1 in this like big stake showdown. But at the time, I was sort of thinking about it, because it was sort of, ooh, do I pick a main event? And like, Graham, I don't even know. We didn't even know what distance. But that's how I picked Jumbo. I mean, it's my best horse. It sort of remains my best horse. So that's the one I go to battle.
How high was the anticipation or the nerves or all that stuff before the race and during the race?
Oh, man. So we were at one of the guys' house filming it, so I was like, one way or another, like, something's going to happen. So it was pretty intense. I was pretty nervous. My family was with me in San Diego, but they weren't there at the house filming. And so we were all watching together, like our nerves were going crazy. And what bugged me, though, is if you watch the race again, like, Jumbo sort of broke, and it just kind of like tailed off and started to die, and then like Swagger started to come back, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna catch me. And I thought for sure I had lost it, but he sort of Jumbo knows him at the very end, and it was intense. I couldn't even believe it.
That's what makes Zed like real, right? Once you're once you're in a Redwood City Classic or a 5 Ethereum race, it gets real fast. Like, this is a real race, and we got some real money on the line here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who the horses are. I mean, it's any race. You could win any race. You gotta shoot your shot in that.
So what'd your family say when you came back and you're like, hey, my digital horse just won 5 Ethereum?
They were pretty happy. I mean, when I first started Zed, they were kind of like, you're doing what? Like, you're spending how much? And but when I won, they were pretty happy. So we went to dinner, we celebrated. I couldn't tell many people what happened, because they were gonna talk about it later on. But my immediate family knew about it. So they were happy, and they sort of now approve what I do. At the time, my wife was like, hey, you're racing these horses, like, okay, you're making some Ethereum, but I don't see the money, right? You're just putting in more horses. So
you got to pull the money out to make them like believe that it's real, or to show them that, like, because my mom, she's like, I think it's a scam. I'm like, it's not a scam, Mom. I bought this horse for $4,000, right? And then she goes and makes breakfast one day, and she walked back in here. I'm like, hey, I just won $1,000. She's like, in the time that I made breakfast and walked back in here, you made $1,000. I'm like, digital horses.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
You just got to be able to justify it, or show them, or show like people that you can make real money on this game, right?
Yeah, no, my brother-in-law, like, he's into NFTs now, and he tells his girlfriend, and she just kind of shakes her head. She's like, well, I don't see the money. But I think that's for most NFT people, where there's so much like interesting things in the space that and there's so much opportunity that you want to continue to grow. If you take the money out, like, I mean, it's great to take profits, but you're also kind of doing, you're foregoing other opportunities in this. It's good to have like a balance, probably. You take some profits and you sort of reinvest others, right?
100%. So how'd you get into Axie? Because if you were into that before Zed Run, what was your long-term strategy on Axie when you got into there? Because I saw that you had like a scholarship. You did some donation thing for when their homes caught on fire. So why Axie, and then how did it grow to this big scholarship, and how much time does that take you?
Oh man, so at Axie, I a couple of my good friends from Clash Royale, I used to play Clash Royale pretty competitively a lot. They got into Axie, tried to get me in for a bit, and I was like, oh, I'm so busy with like work and everything, I can't. And then eventually, like, it sort of dawned on me, like, I actually really did enjoy playing the game. I played it competitively. I mean, I was okay. I wasn't like a champion or anything like my friends, but I sort of joined, and they released their new Ronin network, which allowed me to sort of lease different Axies to different people. So I sort of started to build that up a little bit, where you sort of have these like scholarships, right? So you have team of three axes. You can give them to another player, but you control the keys in the wallet. They're able to sort of earn about as much or more than they could from a job in their own, like, you know, in their own home. So they're able to earn that or more, and then you just go into the wallet every month and you pay them. So I did that, and originally it was sort of for passive income. But as I got my first few scholars, I realized, like, you know, like there's a lot of demand for this. Like people, like they're saying, can I recommend my husband? You know, my husband, can I recommend my uncle? You know, so and so, because they don't have a job, the pandemic, they're at home, they can't do anything. It's like, well, okay, you know, I'll do that. So I put a lot of capital in to sort of help build this out, and, you know, sort of to help people. So I started building that out, and then, you know, now I have, I think, 500 scholarships. So there's 500 you know, people that you know, they're like family to me. So we're in a Discord, and we play Axie all together. We share tips and everything, and, you know, they're telling me, like, oh, thank you, we can buy rice now for our family. Like they couldn't, basic things. And then it come to be not too long ago, there was a really big fire in one of the cities where, you know, I forget how many people lost their homes, like 70 families or something like that. So I was like, oh man, you know, that's pretty rough, because it affected, you know, a good amount of my scholars. So I started to raise some funds so that we can help. I mean, it wouldn't replace their homes, but it would sort of help, you know, get them back on their feet. And then Doofy did a stream for it. You know, a lot of people donated, you know, time and effort, and I was able to send all, you know, using the whole Ronin wallet and Axie to some of my scholars, and they were able to provide aid to the people. Like they brought, you know, bags of relief, and, you know, a couple times, and they're helping people, and they're so happy. And in addition, like for families that were affected, you know, they're trying to get a new home. You know, I gave some more scholarships to them to see if we can help them, and a lot of other managers did too. So it was really good to see the Axie community come together, and also the Zed community. I mean, it's like, it's the NFT space, and we're helping people, right? So that's what it's all about.
That's really awesome. Did Axie kind of like give you the vision for the future of Web3 and NFTs? Because what you just said there was like life changing. Somebody is playing a video game and they're making more money than they would maybe at a regular job or a day-to-day job in their own home country. So like, what did this wake you up to? Like, how did this make you feel when you realized that you could purchase these assets, have other people play them for you, but you guys can both mutually benefit from that?
Yeah, no, it's huge. Like that's disruptive, right? So this is the sort of thing that I think hopefully Zed's going to work on too, where you can rent horses out. But it's sort of the future of gaming, right? It's all about play to earn and the scholarship functionality, smart contracts, and things like that. And I think, you know, they talk about here in the US, like, oh, what's the minimum wage? What's this? But I don't think that's going to be relevant. I think eventually it's going to be like, well, what's the Axie wage, or what's the, you know, play to earn wage? And because you can do this from your home, you know, you don't even need it. You just need like a mobile device. You can plan on your phone and do this and earn. And there's shops and everything that are taking the in-game currency now for this, instead of, you know, the whatever the currency is in the home.
So they take SLP token over their native home currency?
Oh yeah. I saw some cars being sold in SLP. I mean, they have stores where you go in and you just sort of log in, you send, and it's instant free transfers through Ronin. And I'm hoping Zed can do this too, because I have a lot of horses that I'd love to sort of, you know, I can't race this many horses by myself. So if I can have scholarships for my horses, that'd be cool. And I think it may be in the works for Zed, and, you know, so that's why I'm sort of holding a lot of my horses. And I think, like, you know, help with the breeding, help with the racing, and even just having the free races too, that would be pretty cool, right? Because I mean, it's a lot for me, and I don't want to sell, you know, my horses because I love my horses so much.
Right.
It'd be cool to help people through Zed too, right?
100%. So how do you think it would look in Zed? Do you think it would be that you set the parameters, that you say, hey, you can only race Jumbo at X, Y, and Z distance, so someone doesn't intentionally come in and like mess up Jumbo's record? So you set like parameters to what they can race him at, but would someone have to come in and pay a fee, or do they just get a portion of the winnings? How would you like to see this work out in Zed Run?
Yeah, ideally it would be some sort of contract where you sort of come up front and you click on a percentage of, like, you know, whatever it is, like you race it, you get this percent, and the owner gets this percent. And then I don't think you'd be able to sort of set parameters of what they can and can't race, because I feel like that's all skill. So you sort of have to have a skilled person or train them to be able to sort of know when to race and what, right? And I think in terms of the funds in the account, I think the owner needs to fund it too. It's just you have to sort of give access to somebody else without having the keys to that. But automatic payment would be a real cool thing if they have it. But I mean, it's also new, so we don't even know.
Right. So in Axie, how do you go about managing 500 people? Do you have like designated managers to where they kind of go over the day-to-day stuff with the scholars, and then you communicate with the managers?
Yeah. So first, my wife helps me a ton with everything. I couldn't have done it without her, because she's completely supportive with all this stuff. I mean, people think I'm crazy for doing this, but you know, it's cool. Like our whole family is all about Axie's, all about Zed, right? So we do that. Second of all, yes, we do have like a structure of managers that sort of help me, because whenever I find myself spending too much time doing something, I try to get somebody to help me do that, right? So you know, as long as it doesn't involve whatever the keys to your account, then it's fine to sort of help delegate. And there's a lot that can be delegated, and it saves a ton of time. It's hard to scale with 500 people, right? So the more help you can get, the better.
How do you go about finding these managers in a kind of like a wild, wild west system like this? Was there an already set company that you could find managers from, or were they just kind of like people that you've interacted with and felt comfortable making them a manager?
Oh yeah, no, so my managers they're all scholars too. So they played accounts, and I've talked to them, and I grown to trust them, and just I'm just comfortable working with them, and they seem like, I mean, they're all incredibly smart people, and they're able to help make things more efficient, right? So that's been a huge help to me.
That's cool.
I mean, there's no successful program. If you look at like YGG or one of those, like nobody's successful without their managers, and that's a huge part of it.
Cool.
Just people that sort of help you function, that you trust.
I like that. So if you had half an Ethereum and you're coming into Zed Run today, you have no horses, but you know about the game, and you have half an ETH, what would you get to start a stable?
Well, right now, I feel like there's a lot of sales on Genesis horses. So I feel like I would go Genesis if I can, like at least one. So I actually helped another person get into Zed, but it was a few months ago when prices were different. But I still like getting, you got to get a stud that's a Finny, I think. So go for like, the best looking Finny stud or whatever you can. Even if I don't think you can afford it with the Zabos 0.5, but you can get like a Z6, Z7 right now for that. And then I would get a lot of, legendary horses that have different blood. You get a Nakamoto, you get, I try to go for legendary or exclusives, Nakamoto, Zabos, whatever, because those things are on sale right now. You can build a pretty solid stable, even unraced or, raced for some of that. So I would probably get the females as the legendary exclusive and keep the stud as a Genesis Finny. So
Yeah.
I think Finnies are totally underrated.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like, a lot of money went into pumping up the Nakamotos. I think Zabos are also underrated. So it's sort of that middle tier horses that can produce these huge winners. Like look at Talladega. That's one that destroying the fields, right? And even Rendezvous Peak isn't a bred horse, but it's a Finny as well, right? So I mean, those are the type of horses that I look at. Like Z1s, Z2s are cool to win with, but I kind of like to root for like the Zabos, the Finnies in those type of races, and especially the consistent ones that consistently kill it. Those
kind of the underdog mentality, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at Arbitrage stable too, right? Like, Princess of Power Zabo, right? He has a solid stable and a really good eye too.
Yeah, a great eye. Like within a day, he'll find a horse when it was bred yesterday.
He's amazing. Yeah, I don't know how he does that.
Me neither. Me neither. So if I gave you the keys to Zed, you can take away flames, you can take away stamina, you could bring back odds, you can do whatever you want. You can make one change right now. What would you change?
Well, so actually there's two. So I love odds, but two, there's been a lot of talk in the community lately about just listening to the community, right? So getting, rewarding the content creators, like just listening to the voices of everyone that wants to be heard right now. So it's sort of a theme that, people are pretty upset with Zed. I mean, I love Zed, but everyone gets upset with it. So I think that it's great to see there's a couple of posts on Twitter right now where the community sort of coming together and sort of showing what they want to do. I would love to get upper management, not the mods, to come and look at that, and listen to us, and address it. Like we just want to feel like we're heard, right? And make some changes. So to me, that's number one most important.
I like that. And I 100% agree. We just want to feel like we're respected and that we're being heard and that it's not just falling on cold shoulders, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure they hear us, but it's one thing to hear as upper management, as opposed to how you communicate it. So you can communicate it through your mods, but if you're the CEO coming on and issuing like a statement or something like that, that goes a long way. As compared to just having your mods like read a Discord message and stuff. So to me that makes a big difference. Maybe it's just my my generation or whatever, but I think that would help a ton.
I agree. And instead of having like the henchmen come in, deal with the mob, you want direct to consumer. You want the boss man to come in, talk to the people, and we get it straight from the source, right?
Yeah. No, that would go a long way.
Cool. Last question for you. If you could have any horse, you have an unlimited budget, you can buy one horse in Zed Run, any horse. What are you getting and why?
Oh my God. I actually thought about this before and I still couldn't decide. Oh man, put me on the spot. Well, I don't want to draw controversy, but I think Sentinel looking like a good horse. The only reason why is because I keep seeing that horse winning, and I never heard of it before. But I'm like, what is a Sentinel horse? So I looked it up, and I'm like, yeah, this is a really good one. And I don't think there was any inside information, but if there was, I kind of want to go where the proof is. So give me that horse. Don't bet it.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good horse, man. I mean, he tossed him in both Redwood City Classics. He got third the first time and second the second time. So I'm like,
yep.
That's a great start. I don't think anybody's going to pass him in profitability for a while.
No, yeah, that's one of the great ones. And then I think you want to stay in that sprinter category too. The races are just, they go faster and where they come up with more.
Yeah. There's only a few of them. There's or at least big dogs. There's Crimson, there's Ray Delmundo, now Sentinel, Solid is good. There's a few Billions is really good. So
you got Tisha, yep.
Yep, Tisha as well. I got him on tomorrow. So they got there's actually some pretty good sprinters. What do you think there's less of? Do you think there's less sprinters, marathon, or sprinters, mid or marathon horses?
I think there's less good middle horse, mid-range horses. So there's a lot in every category, but I think if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick the mid-range. There's some really great horses there, but I think there's probably some undiscovered ones that are. So
100%. All right, man. Well, sweet. Thank you so much, dude. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. And we had a great stable duels. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. It was good competition. Where can people contact you at?
Yeah, nice win, man. I'm always here, reachable on Twitter, Discord. I'm always on Discord basically. So you can send me a message, and happy to chat. I helped a lot of new people get into Zed, and happy to answer any questions that anybody has. So.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I'll see you and Jumbo in Class 1 soon, I'm sure. We'll probably see you on the track here later today, but thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. All right, Take care.
Have a good one.
You too.
What up? Thank you, Catch Me Ridin Derby, for the great conversation, my friend. Thank you, bro. All right. So we're back. We went down to $20 yesterday. Shout out to Genesis for hitting us with the donation.